synonymous with disaster.
Oh, absolutely. The HMS Wager, a tale of shipwreck, mutiny, survival, the stuff of legends, really.
And the question isn't just what happened, but whose version of the story survived history?
And that's exactly what drew me to David Grann's The Wager. He dives into these multiple perspectives, using ship logs, court-martial records, even personal journals.
Like stepping back into 1740 right in the thick of it.
And what a time to be alive, the War of Jenkins' Ear, Britain and Spain, locked in this struggle for naval dominance.
And you know where there's a power struggle.
Treasure's never far behind.
That's where the HMS Wager comes in. Part of a British squadron, their mission, capture a treasure-laden Spanish galleon.
We're talking a prize so rich, enough to make a king jealous. But before they even sighted the enemy, life aboard the Wager was its own battle.
No romanticized pirate tales here.
Not a chance. Hundreds of men crammed below deck, disease rampant, the stench must have been unbelievable. We're talking brutal discipline, meager rations, a breeding ground for misery.
You're really painting a picture. Can you give us a sense of just how bad it was?
Imagine a sailor. Maybe he cursed under his breath, or snuck an extra biscuit, anything.
Oh.
The punishment. Tied to the mast, whipped mercilessly.
Makes you appreciate a good union, doesn't it?
No kidding.
So the Wager set sail with Anson Squadron, ambition, and, let's be honest, likely a good dose of fear driving them forward. But this journey, it was fraught with challenges right from the start.
One word. Navigation. Remember, no GPS back then, no fancy satellites. They relied on dead reckoning, calculating their position based on speed, direction, all while being tossed around on the open ocean.
Talk about pressure. One miscalculation and
You're lost hundreds of miles off course. The difference between finding a safe harbor and, well, let's just say the ocean's pretty unforgiving.
And then there's Cape Horn, the Everest of their journey.
Rightfully named, battered by storms, ravaged by a typhus outbreak, they reached the Cape in March, the worst possible time.
I've heard tales. The winds, the waves.
Think towering walls of water, hurricane-force winds, freezing temperatures. It's a miracle any ship survived that passage.
But survive they did, at least for the moment. Little did they know their fight was far from over. In fact, it was about to get a whole lot worse. They cheated death at Cape Horn, but their luck, it was about to run out.
May 1741, picture this. The Wager, battered and bruised, driven onto the rocks off the coast of Patagonia.
Not the treasure they were hoping to find.
No, a different kind of riches. The deafening crash of waves against the hull, the splintering of timbers, men being tossed about like driftwood.
Ben's account, it's visceral. You can almost feel the icy water, the panic.
He doesn't shy away from the horror. Those who survived, clinging to wreckage, finally washing ashore on this desolate island, Wager Island, they call it.
Safe, but at what cost?
Safe is a relative term. Here they are, stranded, supplies dwindling, the elements, those were relentless.
We've talked about the physical challenges, but what about the mental toll? This group of men already pushed to their limits.
Imagine, months at sea, scurvy, storms. Now the shipwreck, it was a social disaster, but it also shattered the world they knew. The rigid hierarchy of the ship, it started to crumble right alongside their hopes.
So anarchy, every man for himself.
It's never that simple, is it? Captain Cheap, he was determined to maintain order, clung to Anson's orders like a lifeline. But the crew, they were desperate, disillusioned, and they started to question his every move.
This mutiny, was it a slow burn or an explosion?
A bit of both, I'd say. Two factions emerged, one loyal to Cheap, holding onto that thread of naval authority. The other, led by John Bulkley, the ship's gunner, they saw a chance for change, a chance to challenge the power structure.
Bulkley, his journal, it's one of the key sources for this story, right?
A first-hand account, incredibly detailed. But, and this is crucial, it's his truth, his interpretation of events. We have to remember that...
Like piecing together a puzzle, each account a different shade of the same event.
Precisely, Cheap's official reports, Bulkley's journal, the memories of other survivors, all filtered through the lens of their own experiences.
And that's what makes history so fascinating, isn't it? The subjectivity of it all.
Absolutely. The Wager story, it forces us to grapple with that. Who do we believe? What really happened on that island? The answers, they're tangled up in the very human desire to survive, to justify, to be heard.
But it wasn't just the crew they had to contend with, was it? Weren't there reports of, well, encounters with the indigenous people?
Ah, yes. The Coescor. Now, the Englishmen, they might have seen them as savages, but these were people intimately connected to the harsh Patagonian environment, masters of their domain.
What was it like, that first contact, two worlds colliding on this desolate island?
Imagine the Englishmen, battered and bruised, staring at these figures navigating the waters in canoes made of sealskin and bark, hunting sea lions, living in harmony with a world that had nearly destroyed them.
Almost otherworldly.
The Coescar challenged everything the Englishmen thought they knew about survival, about civilization. And yet, despite the initial fear, there were moments of connection, of shared humanity.
A reminder that even in the most desperate circumstances, compassion can find a way.
Indeed, the Coescar, they provided the castaways with food, a lifeline in those early days. A testament, wouldn't you say, to the power of human connection.
Shipwrecked, marooned, facing down mutiny. You'd think surviving all that would be enough adventure for one lifetime.
Oh, but their journey was far from over. Remember the Speedwell?
Right. The ship they built from the wreckage of the Wager. Talk about making something from nothing.
A testament to their desperation and their ingenuity. Cramming onto that tiny vessel, they braved the Strait of Magellan, one of the most unforgiving stretches of water on the planet.
Narrow, unpredictable. I can't imagine making that journey under the best of circumstances, let alone after what they'd been through.
The conditions, the constant fear, the dwindling rations. It took its toll. Men who had survived the shipwreck, the island, they succumbed, lost to the sea, their stories swallowed by the waves.
A stark reminder of how fragile life is, how even in survival, there's loss.
It wasn't until January of 1742 that they finally reached the coast of Brazil. Think of that relief, the joy of solid ground after so long at sea.
Safe at last, but I have a feeling their troubles weren't over just yet.
You'd be right. Returning to England, they weren't hailed as heroes. Instead, they were met with accusations, whispers of mutiny, of murder.
Murder? Who was accusing whom?
Captain Cheap, he pointed the finger at Bulkley and his men, claimed they had orchestrated a mutiny, tied him up, left him for dead back on Wager Island.
Hold on, so it's a he said situation.
Exactly. A battle of narratives. Bulkley, he claimed, Cheap had become tyrannical, irrational, even accused him of murder in the death of midshipman Cousins.
Talk about a powder keg. And suddenly, those journals, those memories, they become more than just stories. They become evidence.
The court-martial, it was a spectacle. Each side presenting their version of the truth, each account shaped by their experiences, their biases.
Not just about who was right or wrong, but about who the court believed, whose version of the truth held more weight.
And the stakes, they couldn't have been higher. A guilty verdict, that meant death by hanging.
So what happened? Did the court side with Cheap, with Bulkley?
The outcome. It surprised everyone. They acquitted both men.
Both. Neither one was found guilty.
Neither. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Was there simply not enough evidence? Or perhaps, after all they'd endured, the court couldn't bring themselves to condemn them.
It's easy to get caught up in the adventure, the drama, but we have to remember these were real people, caught in a web of empire, ambition, survival.
And some, like John Duck, the free black seaman who was captured and sold into slavery, their stories remind us that the cost of empire, it wasn't always paid in gold and glory.
Sometimes it was paid in blood, in freedom, in the silencing of voices like his.
The Wager's story? It's a microcosm of a much larger history. It challenges us to confront the complexities of the past, to question the narratives that have shaped our understanding.
And to recognize that sometimes the most important truths are the ones that are the hardest to hear, the ones that force us to question everything we thought we knew.
If this deep dive has left you wanting more, I urge you, pick up David Grann's The Wager. You'll find yourself questioning not just the events themselves, but the very nature of truth and the power of stories to shape our understanding of the world.
And who knows, you might just find yourself captivated by the mystery, the intrigue, the sheer audacity of the human spirit to endure, even in the face of unimaginable odds. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.